I can.
So what if I told you that wanting a massive career and owning a multi-million-pound business and being super rich and well-known or famous, shall we call it, isn't the be-all, end-all? Now, this is actually a little bit embarrassing because I did really want that. I really wanted to run a extremely successful multi-million-pound company. I have always, ever since I can remember, wanted to be famous, to be well known, to be well recognised, to be stopped in the street. As a result of that pursuit, I became really, really unhappy and really depressed. When we had the 2020 pandemic, I got some time back and I basically just went full-blown obsession with my career. I was working ridiculous hours, like something like 8 a.m. till 8, 9, 10 p.m. non-stop, like no breaks to eat. I'd probably give myself like 5 minutes to eat breakfast. I probably wouldn't eat lunch. And then because I was so hungry in the nighttime, I'd binge eat. In 2020, that's kind of what happened. I worked really, really hard with this huge startup ambition and burnt out and became really unwell and really depressed and overweight and unhealthy, and I didn't like the person that I was. And it's now 2025, so 5 years ahead, and I can look back at that and say I've become a completely different person. And I think I really want to tell my story because I think there are so many other people who feel the same way and aspire for something amazing, and it's very materialistic. Let's say you're aspiring to become the kind of director of something within a company, or you're aspiring for 150k salary, or you're aspiring to run a multi-million-pound business like I did. And these career ambitions can really blind us from what's really important and actually what makes us happy, because I think we get this idea in our head where we're like, right, once I've got that, once I've achieved that, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be so happy. I'm going to be able to do anything that I want. I'm going to be able to not worry. My depression's going to disappear. My anxiety is going to disappear. And realistically, that's not true. How many times have you achieved a goal, and once you've achieved that goal, you get that instant excitement and like happiness, and within maybe half an hour to an hour, you're like, sad again. Great. What's next? Then you aspire to the next big thing. And I am pregnant. When I found out that I was pregnant, I was very sad and happy at the same time. I was happy because I wanted to be pregnant and I wanted to have a baby, but at the same time, the realistic element of, oh crap, I'm going to have a baby, meant that my career ambitions just disappeared overnight. And it took me about 3 to 5 months to really get my head around that and accept that for what it was. I became quite depressed. I was like crying regularly. I was very sad. Like, obviously pregnancy hormones didn't help, but I felt really lost. And I'm now in my 3rd trimester. It's probably been about 5 months since kind of that started to wear off, and I feel amazing. I feel the happiest I've ever felt in my entire life, and I want to explain why, and I want to talk about that journey, and I want to share my experience so that anybody who's experiencing similar doubts, worries, anxieties can really understand that your life will change. And also, your 20s do suck, you know, like, you're so naive, you're so unaware and ignorant, and there's so much going on. Now, my biggest piece of advice to somebody in their early 20s is that your career is not your life, and your career will not bring you ultimate happiness and purpose. And I believed that. I 100% believed that if I ran this amazing company and I was super successful and people respected me for what I'd achieved, then I would literally just be on top of the world and I'd be able to do anything that I wanted to do. And whilst I believed that, I was also deeply unhappy and constantly anxious about achievement. And also every time I'd reach a hurdle or a failure or a rejection, I'd go into like this terrible spiral and just think like, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough, I'm obviously not clever enough, it's not meant to be, I'm never going to achieve my goals, blah, blah, blah. And when you're in that headspace, you don't see all the amazing things that you have achieved. You don't acknowledge the fact that you have made that dream salary that you once wished for when you were 20. You don't acknowledge all the hard work that you've put in. You don't acknowledge all the learning that you've done and the value that you've added to your life and the type of person that you are until later, until you slow down and stop and think, actually, like, what am I doing this for? Now, I'm still in my 20s, but I feel like a very mature 20-year-old, and I don't want to sound like a hypocrite and come across like a hypocrite, but realistically, so much happens between your 20s, and each year brings you a new learning curve, a new hurdle to jump, a new experience to basically take through and then gain wisdom from. And that's what I want to share and teach other 20-year-olds and other people. Maybe you're not 20, maybe you're a little bit older, but you also have found out you're pregnant, or you found out that you need to slow down. Maybe you've got a health condition, or maybe something has changed in your life that means that your priorities and your goals have to change. And something that impacts this idea of success is your ego. And until you get rid of that ego and leave that ego at the door, you will never be able to move on. You will never be able to accept the great things in your life. You'll never be able to accept true happiness. You'll never be able to accept your purpose. And it took me such a long time to realize that, and also practice to like not have an ego. Like, I had the biggest ego in my 20s and in my teens, and it just wasn't good for me. It made me unhappy. Like, I'd go to the gym and I think I was better than everyone, and I think I was fitter and I was super competitive, and then when I wasn't, I'd be so upset about that and be like, oh, I'm just rubbish, I'm not good enough. And that whole like demonizing you as an individual would come into your head, and you'd be so negative about yourself. So number one, just get rid of that ego. Number two, really, if you're in a dark place, just remember it does get better and it doesn't stay the same. Like, your unhappiness doesn't last forever as long as you do something about it. You have to act on that, and you have to change something up. You can't just keep doing the same thing day in and day out. Now, the realization that I was pregnant meant that I had to really change my lifestyle. It meant that I had to really change my vision of what my future looked like. I had this idea of being this massive boss woman, working in a specific sector, running a multi-million-pound company. And then now I see myself as a mum and a dog mum and a homeowner and still a businesswoman, but in a different way, and making money in a different way. Money is also always going to be a part of my life. I really like the finer things in life. I like to travel, which is really important to me. I like to explore the world. I like experiences. I'm not very materialistic, but I do really like experiences. I love my home, and I love gardening and all of those things. And things like that cost money. They are luxuries. And to be able to afford those luxuries, you do need to make a certain level of income. So that will always be something that's important to me, and that's something that I will work on. And aside from the money side, I do enjoy working. It's something I've always liked. I love learning. I love working with people. I love creating things. And I know that that will always be something, but maybe it's not my number one anymore. It used to be my one and only, whereas now I've got this family that I want to grow, I've got my dogs that I love, I've got my house and it's like a very humble home. Like we live in a 3-bedroom, like 2 very like average sized bedrooms with a small 3rd bedroom, a small garden, 1 bathroom, you know, like it is humble. And before I had this realization, I was so ambitious. Like I want this 6-bedroom house, and I want like 3 acres of land, and I want to have a swimming pool in my garden. And I had all these massive ambitions, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having all these massive ambitions, but it does become a problem when you're upset about not achieving that or not getting closer to that goal. I still may get a 6-bedroom house with a swimming pool. That would be amazing, but I don't have too much pressure. And like, I'm so grateful that I'm 28 years old and I've bought my first home, and I have a dog, and I run my own business, and I have run my own business for the last 8 years, and I've never had to work for anyone. And in those last 8 years, and I've had my like dream kitchen designed, and I'm about to have my garden done, you know, like all these small things, and they may not be small for everybody, and I do acknowledge that, I'm so grateful for. And until you start to be grateful for those things, you really cannot accept and feel true happiness. Something I really worry about is I'm going to look back on my life when I'm 110 and think I didn't achieve enough, or I didn't do enough. And that is my biggest fear. My biggest fear is dying without having not accomplished what my full capacity is. And now that's how I see my life. Like, I know that my vocation is to be a mum. I also have a career element of changing people's lives. Now that might not be like large scale, but that matters if I'm changing one person's life. If I change one person's life in my whole entire life, I will have achieved that dream of helping someone. I always think we have different personalities, people who really need to socially improve the world, and then we have other people who are really happy just kind of in a standard job that doesn't really impact other people. I am the initial side of that. I am the type of person that can only do a job that helps people, whether that is educating people, whether that is supporting people with health conditions, whether that is improving somebody's day. Within my soul and within my being, that is the type of person I am, and that is something I will always have. And whether that's becoming a mum and then basically supporting my children to become the best people that they can possibly be, to helping people over the age of 70 walk better, stand better, regain physical independence, like those themes will always show throughout my life. And I've recognized that, I've acknowledged that now. I've been able to see that just making loads of money and being successful and getting that kind of industry recognition isn't going to be the thing that brings me happiness. The thing that brings me happiness is a combination of fulfillment, actions such as improving people's lives, doing things that bring me joy, accepting what I've achieved, being humble, dropping my ego. All of those things combined are the things that really truly impact your well-being, your physical well-being, your mental well-being, and at the end of the day, your happiness. So far today, I'd say I am so happy with where I'm at. My relationship with my husband is another thing, and if you're struggling with relationships or you think you'll never find somebody, you may not find that one person, but that's not what life is about. You have to put yourself first. You have to decide and take action on things that are going to bring you happiness, joy, fulfillment, and that's never going to come from a relationship. I used to think that once I was in that dream relationship, like, everything would be great. It would be so good. I wouldn't have to worry about anything. And I am incredibly lucky to have met what I believe my soulmate is in my 20s at university. But it's a rocky road when you're in a relationship. Being in that relationship has meant that I am fulfilling that side of my life, the relationship side, the sexuality side of it, the friendship side of it, and as a result of that, my husband really lifts me up, and he enables me to fulfill my true purpose. And yes, that's a big part of my life, but it's not, he doesn't control that purpose. He doesn't control the fact that I'm achieving my full purpose. Like, I could do that by myself. Like, I don't need him, and I acknowledge that I don't need him, but he does make my life better. And that's also really important to acknowledge and recognise, is especially in your 20s, because I know so many people who are so sad, like they've maybe gone through a terrible, devastating breakup, they've been with somebody for 5 years and they end up not being together. Maybe you're engaged and that engagement just breaks up, or you've never been in a long-term relationship, or you've never been able to hold down a long-term relationship, and that can consume a lot of your mental conversation. It can consume a lot of your life, going on dates, looking for other people. But I would say that in your 20s, you're still so young, and you definitely do not need that. And you don't know that in your 20s. Maybe you'll start to figure that out in your 30s and 40s. But if you can figure that out, the sooner the better. Accumulatively, I know I'm going on such a tangent, and I'm just literally just like throwing up everything that I can possibly think of. But I think it's really important that we acknowledge that in our 20s and maybe even 30s can really suck. Life does get better as we age, and through time and experience, we learn what we want to achieve from life and what we want to get from life and what will make us truly happy. And at the end of the day, all these things accumulatively are the things that are going to make you happy. It's not one thing. Don't set your sights on just one goal, whether that's just having the career, whether that's just having a family, you know, like, yes, that's a really important thing, especially if it's your vocation, but there will be other parts of your life that will need to be fulfilled. Maybe it's a strong relationship with your partner, maybe it's helping other people, maybe it's creative writing. I don't know. Our lives are so complicated, and as human beings, we are so complex. And unfortunately, society designs the education system in a way that makes us think that our careers are our lives and our careers are our futures. And then the pressure of getting married and having a family is also a really important part. And without that, you're not going to be happy. Both things are not true. I'm in a very grateful position that I have had both and I've experienced both. But that doesn't mean that it's been a happy journey, and it doesn't mean that I've always felt as good as I do feel now. There have been some very dark times, and only you will know what that looks like if you have experienced that. But talk to people, go explore the world. Cliche, but travel the world, because that will give you a huge perspective change on life and what the meaning of life is. And go and experience different things. Don't stay in the town that you grew up in. Go and meet other people. Go and learn about mental and physical well-being and how you can optimize that. And I promise you, you will feel so much better. You will feel happy. You will love yourself, and you cannot be happy until you love yourself. So go away, learn to love yourself. Life gets better. The wiser you get, the happier you get. And I hope that's been really helpful. But yeah,